and welcome to Little Learners. I have a cold and a horrid cough, so apologies if I seem a little bit off today, but I wanted to get this video made as soon as possible. So, the Chancellor announced today the Spring 2023 budget, and I wanted to go over some of the points made about childcare. Now, when I say that, those of us in the childcare, particularly the early years sector, were waiting with bated breath for this, that is no exaggeration. So let's look at the main points that were made during the budget to do with childcare. So the biggest thing that was announced was the extension of funded places in childcare. So at the moment, when children are 3 and 4, they get funded hours in a childcare setting, so a nursery or a childminder, but now it's going to be extended to all children aged 9 months and over. This is a really welcome change because there is a huge gap between when a child is born and when their caregiver, usually the mother, can go back to work, because childcare costs so much money that a lot of families cannot afford to send their children to a childcare setting so that they can go back to work, and this disproportionately affects women. So this was a welcome change. This will be a staggered introduction to make sure that the infrastructure is there and the places are there, although we'll get onto that in a moment. So the proposed introduction of this new funded childcare scheme is 15 funded hours for 2-year-olds will be starting in April 2024. 15 hours for 9 months to 2 years will be starting in September 2024. The 30 hours per week for children aged 9 months to 3 years will be starting in September 2025. And the condition of that is if both parents or carers in the home are working at least 16 hours per week. It's very interesting about the hours per week worked, because at the moment, when you sign up for the funded hours for 3 and 4-year-olds, it's to do with how much you earn, not how many hours you work. So I thought that was quite interesting. There have been so many charities campaigning for this, so it's a really welcome change. There are a lot of concerns about how it will actually work in practice, because currently nurseries and childcare providers are so underfunded when it comes to the funded places. They're not receiving enough from the government currently, and so having enough spaces is a real concern. And while the Chancellor has said that they will be staggering the introduction of this to make sure the places are there, there is a lot of concern that that still won't be enough time to get them ready. So I'd be interested to know your thoughts. Maybe we'll do another video at some point going into depth with this a little bit more, but I thought I would mention that. When it comes to funding for childcare providers, the Chancellor has said that for the funded places for children aged 9 months plus, nurseries and other childcare providers will be receiving about a 30% increase in the funding that they normally get. So it will be interesting to see how that plays out. Is that an average? Is that dependent on where you are, how old the child is, what kind of childcare setting you are? We don't really know yet, but the Chancellor has said that there will be additional funding for childcare providers. So the Chancellor has said that schools will need to offer wraparound care. This is any time from 8 a.m. until school starts, to then when school ends until 6 p.m. to enable parents to be working full time and not have to worry about coming to school for pick-up and drop-off. Some schools already have wraparound care. Some schools team up with a private company that offers wraparound care. Again, this has raised a lot of concerns. It certainly raised an eyebrow for me when I heard it, because there is a huge question about how this will be funded, who will be working in the wraparound care, will teachers be expected to work in the wraparound care, will there be additional money for those working in the wraparound care, will this end up being an expectation? So for example, in many schools it is just expected that teachers will run clubs after school and during lunchtime for no extra money. So is this going to be part of that? The Chancellor has said that schools can work in partnership with other schools for this wraparound care, and that it needs to be in place by September 2026. Whether or not this will happen, who knows? It's what they have proposed, but I think I am not alone in thinking that this poses some really, really big questions. Moving back to early years then, we have also had the announcement that the ratio for adults to 2-year-olds will be changing from 1:4 to 1:5. Now this has had a mixed reaction, and even before it was announced, when it was kind of talked about, there was a lot of debate about it. So the idea is that if you only need 1 adult for every 5 children rather than 1 adult for every 4 children, that you don't have to employ as many adults in your setting, and it will save nurseries money, and then they will pass that saving on to the parents. I don't think that there will be many childcare settings where, if they are making a saving because of this ratio change, they will be passing it on to the parents, because not because they're selfish, but because they are already so underfunded that any extra money that they can save, they need to put back into the setting. There is also the flip side of this, that if you say that you only need 1 adult to 5 children, this can put a real strain on the staff that are in the settings. So now we have staff who need to be doing more because this one member of staff is no longer there, but probably won't be compensated as such. So you can see that there will be more responsibility put on existing staff members for no extra pay, which I think is probably going to be the case. And I don't blame nurseries for going to the 1:5 ratio. I'm sure a lot of them don't really want to. It's more of a need because of funding issues. But again, it will be interesting to see what happens there. And finally, not forgetting childminders, who I know often feel forgotten whenever we talk about anything to do with early years. It's often teachers and nurseries that are talked about, but childminders, we have seen a really big decrease in the amount of childminders that we have in this country, and so the government wants to do a big push to get more people into childminding. So they are putting some resources in place to encourage people to get into childminding. One of those is an incentive of £600 if you join the profession, or £1,200 if you join the profession through an agency. So those were the main points that were made. I'd be really interested to know your thoughts. Do you feel that these are all really positive and there are no negatives here? Do you feel like you can see a lot of negatives? Do you feel like there are holes to be picked? Of course, I know that this is a political matter, but more than talking about which party is doing what, I just want to know if you think this is going to benefit the children, because at the end of the day, that's what we want. We want to benefit the children, and we want to benefit the families and the people working in childcare. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you found this video interesting. If you did, please give it a like, as it really helps out the channel. Don't forget to let me know your thoughts below, and I will see you next time.